So, last time we have discussed in the previous session, that is the what are the different definitions of the happiness in overall happiness and global happiness, and then we have talked about the workplace happiness. In continuation of that discussion, now we will see that is the what are the key characteristics of the workplace happiness. In the case of the key defining characteristics of the workplace happiness, it becomes the freedom. Everybody wants the freedom. Freedom is the basic need of the human being to be happy. So, therefore, but freedom in what context? The freedom is individual's ability to make choices. For example, whenever we talk about the Holland's model of personality job fit, and then we talk about that is there is a conventional, there is a realistic, there is investigative, there is artistic, social and enterprising. 6 types of the personalities are there, personality orientations are there, and then every person is having all these type of the personality orientations. Only one personality orientation is more dominating over the others, and therefore, somebody is conventional, somebody is enterprising, because that particular personality dimension is dominating over the rest of the dimensions of the personality out of these 6. So, when a job is given and in that job there are number of activities and person is given a choice, an ability to make a choice, and if there is an ability to make a choice is there, then definitely in that case you will find that is the how the person is able to go for this particular job, and then when he goes for a particular job, it means that is the his choice is fulfilled. Whenever a freedom of choice is given to make a decision, then definitely the person will be finding the happiness, the workplace happiness is there, right. Second is think independently. Whenever a person that he wants to think independently, it becomes very very important, that is this particular concept is allowed, it is given a freedom to an employee to think independently. So, his intellectual ability is used at the workplace. It is not so that he has not been asked to do only the job mechanically. A manual is given, his rights and duties are explained, and he cannot think beyond that. That type of the work environment is not there. So, whenever you are going for this workplace happiness, and therefore, in that case you are talking about this particular think independently. So, if you allow the person to think independently, that freedom is given, he will do his best, he will try to find out the solutions, and he will be more towards the creativity, it will be design thinking, a positivity, and therefore, in that case the person will have the different thinking. Next is substantial deal of autonomy and discretion. In substantial deal of autonomy and discretion, you will find that is the in a given job how much autonomy a person has. It is not for even the small matters, right, that he has to ask his boss, and therefore, whenever the person is given this particular job of has given a particular freedom for the substantial deal of autonomy, then definitely in that case he will be going for this particular parameter of the autonomy and discretion. If more autonomy, more discretion is allowed, then definitely at workplace happiness there will be a different aspect. So, what is important? Important is this, to make workplace as a happy place, what freedom is required? Freedom to make choices, freedom to think independently, and freedom for the autonomy and discretion for the employees, so that he can be having this particular workplace, he will feel that is the workplace is a happy workplace is there. another important aspect in characteristics of the workplace happiness, and that is the knowledge. Happiness requires information, knowledge and ability to reason. That is why open and transparent processes are required. We know the knowledge management pyramid. In knowledge management pyramid, it is the data into information, information into knowledge, knowledge into wisdom and wisdom into truth. So, if you go by that particular parameter and pyramid, then definitely in that case it becomes very important. You allow a person to have the information, how to convert into the knowledge, and then how to convert that knowledge into the decision making process, that is the wisdom, and how this wisdom he can implement at the workplace, that is the truth. And if you have this type of these knowledge practices in the organization, then definitely in that case that workplace will be the happy workplace. Third is religious orientation. Happiness requires a moral character and religious orientation. Those who have intrinsic religious orientation are more happy than extrinsic religious orientation. So, every person is having a moral character, and then there is having a particular religious orientation, and that orientation is to be allowed to make by the employer to the employee at the workplace. Now, is the happiness is heredity or environment, right, or it is because of the individual's thought process. Now, here a you see on this slide very interesting output is there. Martin Seligman's happiness formula is H is equal to S plus C plus V. So, H is enduring happiness, S is the set point, C is the circumstances, and V is the factors under your control. So, here it is a set point plus circumstances, and when factors under your control is there, then the person will be happy. Now, here you will find is it the heredity? Why some people they feel happy, more happy in the same circumstances, and while some people even the all circumstances are favorable, they do not find happy. So, on what factors does the happiness depend? So, is it the heredity? Yes, the genetics is 50%. So, here you will find that is whenever we talk about these heredity environment, and therefore, in that case you will find that genetics is the 50% is there. So, if the genetics is 50%, it means that it is going to be the find out that is the heredity of the individual, and that will depend how these genetics are playing the role, that I will discuss in the further slides, but it is 50%. So, genetics of an employee to be happy or not to be happy, person will be smiling or will not be smiling, it 50% depends on his genetics. Can we change? Yes, but 10%, that is the happiness we can change by providing external circumstances. If we provide the external circumstances 10%, then definitely in that case the person will be feeling the happy. So, if external circumstances are not favorable or not according to the expectation of the employee, then definitely in that case what we can do, we can understand his expectations, and then we should try to making the external circumstances to be changed. So, he feels happy. The third and very important factor, because it is a 40%, that is the actions and thoughts. So, actions and thoughts that decide about that determines the happiness, and it is up to the extent of the 40% is there. So, can we change the actions and thought process of the individual, that we will see further, and therefore, if you are able to change actions and thought process, then definitely the happiness that will be better, because it is the S plus C plus V. So, therefore, it is the set point plus circumstances, right, and the factors under your control. So, therefore, if you making the changes into the any one of them, then definitely you will be increasing the happiness. Now, I will talk about the 5 critical factors for happiness at work. The Dr. Laurel Edwards spent 4 years collecting statistical data and investigating to show the connections between the happiness and all the positive advantages experienced by those who are happy at work. The results of their studies show that there are 5 critical factors which defines happiness at workplace. These 5 factors are: first, the contribution is about the effort you make and your perception of it. So, if you are making the whatever efforts you are making, everybody does a very hard work at the workplace, and then he measures that whether he has done the good efforts or not, and if he finds that he has made the high level of efforts, right, and then he will find the satisfaction and happiness. So, therefore, it is the contribution which a person makes in the organization at the workplace, and if his contribution level is very high, then level of happiness will be also higher. Second point is conviction. Conviction is about the motivation you have whatever the circumstances are there. For example, if the motivation is there to achieve the goal, and therefore, he will search for the path, he will look for the leader, and then he will go by that particular path, and then he will achieve that particular goal, and that is all about his motivation. So, in spite of barriers in the path, he is crossing every barrier and reaching to the goal. So, that means that it is the motivation of the individual. If the motivation of individual is so high, then definitely with the circumstances also, even given the unfavorable circumstances, the person will feel happy because his motivation is very high. The third is about the culture. This is very important. That is the work culture and individual's culture that is required to be matched. If there is no match between the individual culture and work culture, then definitely he will not feel fit in the workplace, because what is the culture? Culture is about how well you feel you are fit in at workplace. So, therefore, in that case, if it is the culture of the organization is not matching with the culture of the individual, then definitely it will be that is the misfit of the culture, and if the misfit of the culture is there, person will not be happy. Commitment is about the extent to which you are engaged with your work. I have mentioned earlier also, that is the whenever we are talking about the employee commitment, and if he are highly engaged in his work, he will feel highly happy, but if he is not committed, he will not be engaged, and if he is not engaged, then definitely he will not be happy. So, therefore, what is required is that is the you have to get engaged with your work as much as possible. More you will engage with your work at the workplace, better will be the status of happiness is there. And fifth is that is the confidence, is about the sense of belief you have in yourself and your job. That becomes very important. That is the whenever you are doing a particular job, so your happiness at workplace will depend on that is the how much you are believing yourself, that is the you are fit for this particular job. How much you believe in yourself, that is you wanted to do this particular job, and therefore, in that case it becomes very important, that is the confidence level of the employee. What is the confidence level of employee at the workplace? If he is not able to connect his belief between himself and his job, then definitely in that case one will not be successful. So, therefore, when we talk about the 5 C's, it is the contribution, conviction, culture, commitment and confidence, and whenever these 5 C's are fulfilled, then definitely in that case the employee will feel more happy at his workplace is there. Now, I will talk certain theories of the happiness. The zero-sum theory. Happiness is cynical, and that happy and unhappy periods follow each other. Any attempt to increase happiness will be nullified by a consequent unhappy period. So, therefore, it goes by hand. Happiness and unhappiness, and if you want to be the happy, then in that case definitely your unhappiness is to be also low, because if unhappiness incidences, unhappiness events are more, the person will not feel happy, and then in that case there will be the zero sum theory will be there, and person will be remaining unhappy. Second theory is fixed characteristics theory. what is fixed characteristics theory? Happiness is a characteristic and is therefore not open to change, although happiness is about has make the ensure that is the not quite as stable during the adolescence and early adulthood and can be affected by major life changes. So, it may happen that is the happiness is not quite as stable during the adolescence. So, a person like in Indian culture, I would like to take the example, during the adolescence the person is making his career guidelines. He is appearing in different competitive exams and therefore, those competitive exams will decide his quality of life, and this is normal perception, and therefore, in that case whatever the quality of life he decides and he goes about that, then definitely in that case his happiness at the adolescence is high, because he has decided to go either for engineering or for the medical or for the science or for the arts or for the commerce, and he is preparing for that and he has scored well, and now his career line is into that particular discipline which he wanted for, and then in that case during adolescence one will feel happy because that is matching with his requirements. And if in the adolescence or the early adulthood, like one wants to be the engineer and and he does not get succeed in the examination, he is not able to go into the IITs and like these other premier institutes which he wanted to go, and if it does not turns up, then in that case definitely the child will be unhappy. Therefore, the happiness that starts in the adulthood or the early adult stage only, and therefore, please we have to be very careful, that is the if we are making then fixed characteristics and we do not achieve them, then it will be difficult to be remain happy. Then what to do? The solution is, that is the it has to be seen, that is whatever the characteristics you decide in your adulthood or in your early adult stage, adolescent stage, then in that case we have to keep the number of choices, and then if one choice is not fulfilled, the person can go to the another choice. Therefore, it is more likely that happiness tends to get fixed rather than being fixed from the very beginning. So, therefore, but this is to be avoided, that is the we have to be very careful, that is the we have to ensure that we are having that particular style where we can have the freedom and flexibility. If there is no freedom and flexibility, then in that case it is possible, that is you are making your fixed characteristics theory like which has been given here during the early age of adolescence and the early adulthood, and then if it is so, then definitely during adolescence and the early adulthood, if the person is not able to do achieve his goal, then definitely these situations, these fixed characteristics that will bound him to not to be happy rather than to be unhappy. So, what is required is, that is the one should avoid the fixed characteristics theory. Guidelines are to be there, framework is to be there, but within framework there should be the scope to go beyond the framework also if required. So, therefore, emergency plan 1, emergency plan 2, emergency plan 3, that one can make ready to remain happy. Next theory is adaptation theory is there. In adaptation theory, it predicts that although happiness reacts at negative and positive life events, it returns to its baseline shortly afterwards. So, therefore, in that case the person may make an efforts, and if he achieve the efforts he will feel happy, but if he does not achieve the efforts he will feel unhappy, and if it is so, then in that case what happens? Then he will again come back to his baseline after some period of time, that hangover is over, then in that case the person will like to come to his baseline, and therefore, in that case, and that baseline is that whatever he is doing, he is whether happy or satisfied or not in doing that thing. Lottery winners soon revert to their normal level of well-being, as a very good example has been given, that is if somebody gets the lottery, what happens, that is the person tries to feel very happy as soon as, but after some time he realize that is okay, this money has to be settled and to be invested in a proper way, and even this so therefore, in that case the normal level of, then he will become the normal person, because okay, he has achieved that, got that much of money, and now he is it has become history. Even the sick people also seem to adjust to their conditions and nearly come back to their previous level of well-being. So, therefore, many times the sick people are there, and therefore, those sick people then they try to adjust their conditions and want to come back to their previous level of well-being, in the sense that is they want to be satisfied with their previous conditions. It has been discovered that only life events which occurred during the past 2 or 3 months influence well-being. Oh, then therefore, this is also a part of research that one has to see, that is in the adaptation theory, that is the person is majorly influenced by last 2 or 3 months experiences. If it is so, then many times the relationships are based on these 2-3 months experience, last 2-3 months experience. If in the last 2-3 months continuously maybe, but the person is having the good relationship, then that relationship will continue for a longer period of time. But if the last in the last 2-3 months, if the person is not able to perform in a better way, then he will not be able to going for this 2-3 months influence is not satisfactory or good, he will not have the good relationship with others. However, there are certain conditions such as widowhood, loneliness and injustice. Naturally, if this type of the challenges are there in the life, then to which people never adjust completely, then they find difficulty to adjust with this. If somebody is alone and he is feeling the loneliness, now the question will arise, how to make that person happy. So, therefore, to make this person happy, it has to be tried by the either by the positive life experiences, right, in the future, or to which people are he has to adjust to the current conditions, understanding that this is the reality. So, therefore, if he understands the reality, he may come back to the baseline, but if it is the difficult for him to come to this particular baseline, then they will never adjust completely anytime, and the life will go with the rest of the issues and challenges. So, final slide I would like to take is, that is the cognitive theory of how happiness is assessed. So, global assessment is there. In the global assessment, you will find overall happiness is there, satisfaction with one's life as a whole. In the case of the overall happiness, the satisfaction it is becoming very important. So, one wants to achieve the state he will like to take for this particular global achievement, and that is a satisfaction with one's life as a whole. So, like in earlier my definitions discussion also I have talked about, that is there should be the satisfaction with one's life as a whole, that will make a person the more overall happiness is there. So, but this depends on what? It depends from the whatever the culture is there. This particular culture which he has developed, then that has whether it is from the workplace culture especially, then that will play a very important role to begin with. If the begin with it has become the culture is becoming the very positive and supportive, then definitely in that case it will be done, the person will be happy towards the overall happiness. Second is, that is in the case if the person is going to be the standard living setting underlying the process, if in the underlying the process, if the standard settings are there, whatever culture is there, and the person is able to develop those standard setting, then definitely he will be one step ahead towards the overall happiness. In the standard setting, he will have the cognitive comparison with the whatever information he has. So, he will have the information, what is his colleague is doing, what is his friend is doing, what is his brother is doing, and therefore, he he will make the cognitive comparison whether I am better condition, I am not. If he feels that I am in better condition, whatever the information he receives, and he feels that he is in a better condition, then he will pursue the realization of wants. So, therefore, in that case he will pursue that whatever he wanted, he is getting that. If this is so, then definitely in that case it becomes very important, that is the person, because he has pursued from the culture, from the practices, from the comparison with himself with the others, and therefore he pursued, that is the yes, he is having, that is the whatever wants he had, they are going to be fulfilled. So, he have the contentment, and as soon as he get the contentment, definitely he will be able to satisfy with one's life as a whole. So, to make the overall happiness at the workplace, these particular dimensions, the culture, standard setting, cognitive comparison, pursued realization of wants, and satisfaction with one's life as a whole, that is becoming a very important factors, and if it is aligned like this, I am sure that there will be the overall happiness. In the case of the overall happiness, the person with the ultimately satisfaction with life, that will lead for him happiness. What are the other research work that I will discuss on the happiness later on. Thank you very much.